after almost 6 years without winning a trophy, Manchester United won the Carabao Cup. Yesterday, the old League Cup as it was. They beat Newcastle 2-0. It's a big moment for the club. And, of course, the Premier League continued. Spurs beat Chelsea, who are beginning to look like if the league was going on for much longer, they'd be in the relegation zone. It's a pleasure now to welcome John Giles and Liam Brady to join us to talk about the weekend's football. John, one of your old clubs, Manchester United, they badly needed this, even though it's only the Carabao Cup. When you're flying high like City, shall we say, and Arsenal at the moment, it doesn't really matter so much. But it mattered a lot yesterday. Did they deserve it?
Oh, yes. I thought they played well, Eamon. Newcastle were a bit of a disappointment. I thought they'd play better than they did. But Manchester United well deserved to win. Yeah. Definitely.
What has Ten Hag brought to the club? He's only been there a few months, and, you know, his predecessors had made a mess of it. But they seem to me to have a structure. It's easy now to predict what the team will be in a good way. There's not so much chopping and changing, particularly at the back.
Well, you got rid of Ronaldo, Eamon.
Yep.
That was the major issue for not just for him, for previous managers, was Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo at the start of the season, I know I keep going on about it, at the start of the season, wanted to transfer. He wanted to get away. And then there was 2 matches where he came in, he cleared off before the end of the match, then he wouldn't go on as sub. You can't run a club, Eamon, any team, in a situation like that. That the players, the good players, the good lads in the club, what's going on?
Yep.
You know, he can do this, he can do that, he's not doing this, not doing that. And it's not a coincidence that since they got rid of it, don't get me wrong, Ronaldo's been a great player, and no doubt about that. But for Manchester United, in his situation, he had to go.
Yes.
And it's not a coincidence that since he's gone, that club has picked up in a way that Manchester United should be picked up.
Yes. And Liam, it's very important for a coach to show that he's the boss. And as John says, to show the other players who are behaving themselves that there's no room for prima donnas.
Yeah, he demonstrated his authority as Arteta did when getting rid of Aubameyang. You know,
yes.
if you've got your a supposed leader in the dressing room that has no respect for you as manager, you've got to get rid of him. And I think that's what Ten Hag did with Ronaldo. I agree 100%. I think the thing changed overnight. It was a relief for the players to not have that hanging over him. Ronaldo, whether he should play, he shouldn't play. So I think they've got that kind of decision concentrated everybody's minds.
Yes.
Okay, the League Cup is you know, if you had to ask me who were the winners of the League Cup in 2017, I wouldn't be able to tell you. You know,
yes, of course.
It's not a major competition. A lot of the clubs go into it and they can be not too bothered about winning it. But for Manchester United, this could be a turning point. You know, I remember when George Graham was manager of Arsenal and he won the League Cup against Liverpool. And that kind of gave the players the belief going forwards that they could do things. And I think Manchester United remind me of that team. They're a young team. There are a lot of new signings that he's brought in. Signings are working out. Casemiro has been a real top-class player for them and got the opening goal yesterday.
Yes.
So I think he's hit the target with his signings as well, Eamon. So I think Manchester United are going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward. I think they'll be back in amongst the big teams like they used to be year in, year out.
Right. John, the Casemiro scored the first goal, as Liam pointed out there. But his general play, authority, his leadership, his encouragement of players around him, he's been a very, very good buy. Although there were people sceptical on it, I'd count myself among them, that at 60 million and 30 years plus, he might have been an expensive buy, but he had a great record with Real Madrid, and he's been a major player for United, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, players like him are priceless, Eamon.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, okay, he's getting on a bit, as they would say, But he's still a very fit guy and doing what Manchester United need to be done in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
He's doing it brilliantly, and he's worth 100 million. I mean,
yes.
If you get a player like that doing what's needed to be done, they're well worth the money, and he's a great pro and has been for years. Eamon.
Yes,
and he did his stuff again yesterday. And it's funny you talk about the League Cup. You know, when Manchester United were on top, and all the teams are really on top, Eamon.
Yeah,
they want to get out of the League Cup.
Yeah.
But when United are in the position they're in, and big clubs are in the position in the past that we've seen,
yes,
it's a huge competition to win. And you could see the supporters there yesterday and the players that this is to get them back into the real big time. And this is the first step, and it's a good step for them.
Yes, and Liam, I noted, I mean, Mourinho's first trophy in England was the League Cup. I think Jurgen Klopp's first trophy also was the League Cup. But as John says, at a certain point in a club's progress, that's a big boost. I just want to ask you, Liam, about the setup at the back, which looks, I mean, the other big decision he made was to drop Harry Maguire, who is the club captain. He came on at the end yesterday, and I think what was a nice enough gesture. He put him on for the last few minutes. But he made that decision as well, which was not an easy decision to make.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you got to judge him on is how he's got players back to what they used to be or improved players.
Yeah.
Like Shaw is playing probably his best football for him, Luke Shaw, in the left back position, playing probably Wan-Bissaka, who was inclined to make mistakes. I think he's got him on the right track as well. He seems to have Varane fit all the time.
Yes.
I was a bit sceptical about Martinez when he came on. I thought he's too small, but he's such a determined player, you know.
Yes.
So
and Marcus Rashford, Liam.
Well, Marcus Rashford is probably the best example of how he's got a player back on track. You know, he'd lost his way for a couple of years, Marcus had.
Yeah.
He was making probably more news about trying to get these, you know, underprivileged kids school dinners all the time, you know.
Yes.
And he was great for bringing that to everybody's attention, and that's where probably a footballer can have that power. But as he started to do that, he seemed to lose his way on the field.
Yes.
Well, this Ten Hag has got him focused again. He's scoring goals, yeah, he's probably the example of the most improved player under his management.
Right, and John and Liam, to both of you, Manchester United are third in the Premier League. They have a game in hand of Manchester City, who are in front of them and 6 points ahead of them. They have a great chance, John, of qualifying for the Champions League next year, but they are. You wouldn't completely write them out, although I don't think they're good enough to do it at the moment. They've a lot of improvement and a couple of players to get. You couldn't write them out of winning the Premier League at the moment on paper.
Oh, no. I mean, well, it's not just on paper. They actually have on a very, very good run.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot of matches to go in the Premier League because of the World Cup and that.
Yeah.
I mean, what have they got? 12, 15 so matches. So there's an awful lot of points there. I mean,
there's 14 matches to go in their case.
That's huge.
And they're 4 points ahead of Spurs, who are in fifth place, and they've a game more to play. They've a game in hand of Spurs. So they're very well placed to qualify for the Champions League, and they're not entirely out of the Premier League race either.
No, it's never over till it's over, Eamon. And it's if they're getting on the run, which they've on a good run at the moment. But if as happens with teams like that, they get better and better as they go along, Eamon. And nobody is expecting them, don't forget, to win the league.
No.
You know,
no pressure.
There's a lot of pressure on players like Arsenal, pressure on them. City have pressure on them to win it. There's nobody really talking about Manchester United being one of the favourites. So they could just get on with their job and take it as it comes. You never know what could happen. But they're on a very, very good run at the moment, Damon. And there's no pressure on them, no real pressure. They've got a trophy, so they can look at all the other matches to come now to have a go. No doubt about it in the Premiership.
Liam, just a final question on Manchester United for you. The Glazers have announced that they're willing to sell the club, and that means they won't be buying players until there's a new owner. They do need still to really be potential Premier League winners. They need to buy a player or two, and that probably isn't going to happen.
I don't know about that, Eamon. It all depends if they do sell and how quickly the sale goes through. Certainly, if they sell to the Qataris, there'll be plenty of money. There'll be plenty of money to buy players. But they might go in themselves again. You know, they were there yesterday. I saw Alex Ferguson shaking hands. I saw Martin Edwards, Peter, is it David Gill?
David Gill, he was.
Yeah, they were all, and the Glazers were there as well, and they embraced Ten Hag and things like that. You know, they've had an awful lot of stick down through the years, the Glazers, probably rightly so. But, you know, you get a trophy under your belt, it gives them a bit of a lift as well, and they might go in again. They don't have to sell, do they?
No, not at all. I think they have to.
I don't think they're skint, do you?
No, I don't think so. Although looking at the state of the stadium and other things, they haven't really been particularly good owners. But it's a good story. And, I mean, John, you played for United. I saw you win the Cup Final Winners' Medal when the Cup Final was a big deal in 1963 for Manchester United. So it must have warmed the cockles of your heart.
Well, they're a big club, Eamon, and I'd like to see them doing well.
Yes.
You know, they've been in a bad position the last few years, which is for Manchester United and the supporters that they have.
Yes,
is not right. No, I know they have no real say to be one of the top teams, and there's been a bit messy the last few years and changing managers and things like that. But Manchester United are one of the best clubs, supporter clubs in the world, and they should be up there.
That's right.
They should be up there.
And English soccer is better, and the world is better when Manchester United are at the top table and competing for the trophies. Liam, let's move on to Arsenal. They went to Leicester, which isn't always the most straightforward place to go, and they got their result, 1-0, which kind of, they've had a little bit of a rough time recently. How important was that, do you think? Put them back on top of the league, of course, and open up a little gap with the game in hand on Manchester City.
Well, it's back-to-back away wins, Eamon, at pretty too difficult enough places.
Yes.
Okay, Arsenal are a better team than Leicester, and Arsenal are a better team than Aston Villa, but you've got to do it on the day.
Yes.
And it was a great win against Aston Villa a week or so ago, where they came back from being down twice, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought they were much more assured against Leicester. They looked like they had some confidence from that Villa win. And Leicester, I think, they restricted them to one shot, and that wasn't even on target. I saw Arteta's interview after the match. It was a 3:00 game on a Saturday, so we're only dependent on the highlights, Eamon. So,
yes.
But Arsenal had loads of the ball and loads of chances. But they didn't, and Arteta said he was a bit disappointed they didn't make more of the situations they got. The good situations you get into, like maybe with the final cross or maybe with the final finish, it didn't happen. But Martinelli got a lovely goal. He side-footed it into the net, and they looked comfortable. And it was a big win, because I think I said to you last week, and I know I'm not counting my chickens before they're hatched. Believe me, because I know the Premiership can throw up all sorts of results.
Yeah.
They have Everton on Wednesday night, and then they have Bournemouth on Saturday. You know. Yeah. And I'm thinking, go on, open up a bit of a gap. You know, you might be able to. Yeah. So it was a very good win, and a very assured performance.
Apparently, Trossard was outstanding, Liam. I only saw the highlights of the match, but he's a player they bought from Brighton. He looks a very good player, very confident player, and a very technically gifted player.
Well, he left Eddie Nketiah out. The lad has been taking Jesus' place. He left him out and put Trossard up front as a false nine. They were saying in the. I think he had license just to drift around, you know. So he's been a good boy. He's made a difference. He scored a couple of goals coming. He scored a good goal on Saturday. I thought it was quite harsh for the referee to get involved with VAR and disallow it. No, a very good signing, and Jorginho has done well the last couple of games as well, Eamon. So
yes.
Looking forward to Wednesday night now. I'm going to the Everton match, and we'll see how they get on, because I know Everton lost at the weekend, but they're playing with a lot of spirit, Everton, under Sean Dyche.
Yeah. John, we saw, because we were talking during the game, we saw Manchester City go to Bournemouth, and Bournemouth were awful. They looked like a championship team, but they have had, the occasional good result. City won, but they weren't terribly impressive, were they? They won 4-1, in fact.
They were impressive enough, and once they got in front in the early parts of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do any more than they did against Bournemouth. They won well, could have scored more. You got Haaland scoring again. So, you have to put these teams away, and they put them away in a big way, as you said when we were watching the match. Yeah. Once they got a start on them, they totally... They actually killed them, Eamon,
Yeah, I mean, they again, he made a curious decision to play a young lad, Lewis. He looks like a youth team player. He was named as a left back. He didn't play left back. So that situation hasn't been resolved. Bernardo Silva was left out altogether. De Bruyne was on the bench. So it's hard to read Pep Guardiola's mind, isn't it?
Oh, well, it's impossible, Eamon. But I mean, if you win, they were winning 4-0. They got a goal back 4-1. Yeah. But it could be that he's resting these players. There's an awful lot of. I don't think he's dropped them. Right. I don't think he's dropped these players. But they're playing so many matches. If you have the squad that he has, then you've got to use it at some stage. And like when you look at it, they needed that win. And to leave those players out and still get a result like a 4-1 win is what's needed, So, I mean, what he did at the weekend made sense. I mean, what he's doing with the left back never makes sense. But he has those. I mean, he's such a big squad of players, as we know, Eamon, that he can leave those type of players out and still win comfortably.
Yeah,
against Bournemouth.
Liam, they're 2 points behind Arsenal. Arsenal have a game in hand, and as you say, and it's critical, these games that Arsenal have coming up are winnable, and they do give them an opportunity. How comfortable and confident would you feel, or is it just too early? Because, I mean, there's 14 games to go for Arsenal and 13 games to go for City. I mean, it's 38 games, isn't it, now in the Premier League? So there's a long way to go, isn't it, given that break we had to take for the World Cup?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And John would know better than me, because he's been on a few run-ins for trying to win the league and being in this position. But I think it probably gets crucial around Easter time.
Yes.
But Arsenal are up against Man City, and Man City are quite capable of going the rest of the season unbeaten, and winning every game, because John just pointed out they have the squad of players to be able to rotate and rest and so forth.
Yes.
But Manchester City are still involved in the Champions League. They play during the week. They'll play again in another week's or so's time. That's a competition that they really, really want to win. So they're going to be occupied on all fronts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Arsenal out of the FA Cup, they're going to get a breather into their players, although they play Sporting Lisbon in the Europa League when that resumes. But we'll have to see how seriously Arteta will take that, because I don't see Arsenal having a better chance to win the Premiership than this season. We talked about Manchester United are going to be coming back on the scene. We've had Chelsea, Liverpool kind of disappear off the challengers this year, but the money that they've got, they'll be back. So I really think this is an opportunity for Arsenal to win it, that they won't have it so easy again in years to come.
Right. Speaking of Liverpool, John, Saturday night, Crystal Palace away. Crystal Palace, it's a place they've got a great record. They've never lost there, and they usually win. They weren't very inspiring.
No, it wasn't good, Eamon. It's not getting any better anyway, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
It's been down long enough now to be getting better. And, they didn't really play well against Palace. It was a no-score draw, as we know. Palace might have won it, but it's certainly not the Liverpool team that we've had for even a few months ago.
No,
and so it's definitely not getting any better. So, I mean, what he's got to do is do the best he can and get a few new players in. I mean, I think that's the usual thing, in written to 2 or 3, 4 new really top-class players to get it back to where it was.
Liam, Liverpool, and I confess that I'm a Liverpool supporter, or a fan, shall we say, and was a fan of what Klopp has done at their best, which, you know, was when the season they won the Champions League, season they won the Premier League. They're exciting, they're intense, the goals flow, and they're a real good watch. All of that energy and intensity appears to have disappeared, Liam, and I wonder what your take on it is.
Well, that particular balloon, Eamon, is well and truly burst, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And, you know, if we go back to midweek, you know, how they
oh my God, yeah,
got a lesson from Real Madrid, Eamon. And,
yes.
you know, there's a list of things I could go through. You know, Van Dijk's injury against Pickford, he hasn't really been the player he was before that injury.
Yeah.
Losing Mane was huge. Klopp hasn't addressed the midfield at all. You know, against Real Madrid in the second half, there was non-existent. I spoke to John during the week and I said, John, what about the midfield? And John said, there is no midfield.
Yes.
There is no midfield.
Yeah.
And then remember we talked about Salah getting a new contract and how much money he was going to be paid. Then you also got the other thing, that are they trying to sell the club or not, the owners? So you put all these things together, I think you get what you've got at the moment. That's what Liverpool are all about. The club is not a settled club, and some of the players are bang out of form and need replacement, particularly in the middle of the park.
Yeah, what about Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Oh, I didn't mention him. Yeah, he's one on the list, Eamon. You know, he very nearly got caught against Crystal Palace. He was dwelling on the ball on the back line and they hit the crossbar. Yeah, he was in my list. You know, Klopp has not addressed his defensive frailties at all. So there you go. All those things. I don't know what John's got to feel about, how he feels about it.
John, I want to ask you, John, I mean, if you're a coach and you have a player who's so gifted with the ball at his feet, he's got not just the ability, the vision to see passes. He does make a lot of assists for goals. He has a great relationship with Mo Salah, Henderson. They play those little triangles and get in. When you've got a player like that who just doesn't appear to either care about being on the cover and playing as a fullback, or doesn't know how to do it, you've got to just teach him. It's not impossible to actually coach a footballer how to be on the cover when he needs to be and how to defend, basically.
Well, I don't think it's simple as you might think, Eamon. You know, I had an experience with a lad at West Brom where I must have told him about 6 times, Eamon, just to get on the cover, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But the thing, I think the danger, I think, for Liverpool is that I don't think Klopp is trying to tell him.
Right. No, I don't either. Because every time he's asked about him, he says, I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this was up to a few weeks ago. He said, what's all this thing about the right back? He said, I don't see it. What's it all about? You know?
Goals.
Not defending well. No, he can't see it, Eamon. He can't put it right.
Right.
You know, and I just don't get it, because it's happened so, especially, see, it wasn't so bad, and it was just okay when Liverpool were going really well and they were attacking most of the time.
Yes.
But when Liverpool were attacking like they were, he was brilliant at what he did, and they weren't defending that much. Now, anytime he did defend, he didn't defend very well, but they were on the attack most of the time.
Yeah.
But now they have to defend, and not on the attack as much as they were. Now the errors that he's making, he's making more of them. But I don't think he's no chance of putting it right if Klopp himself, and he's been in the paper, and I've heard him on the television say, "What is the problem? What's the problem all about?" About the right back.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't see the problem, you can't put it right.
Okay. Let's move on, John, to Leeds. They're down among the dead men but they're just outside the bottom three. They're a point in front of Everton and Bournemouth, and they're 4 points in front of Southampton, who look like they're almost buried. They got their 1-0 win, John, against Southampton, and they have a new coach, Gracia, who I think is a good coach. He was at Watford and did really well there. So there's hope.
Yeah, I think they'll have enough to stay up, Eamon. Looking at the other teams, and especially if this Garcia, the new manager, does anything with them, if he is a plus for them, which he had a good record at Watford, as we know, and that's a good start for him, obviously, because every win you get now, 3 points is huge, and it was huge for Leeds to get him out of the bottom three. But I think they'll have enough life about them, Eamon.
Yes.
We're looking at the other teams. I think Notts Forest are not out of it yet.
No, they're not.
No, and they're the worst team I've seen this year. Of the teams that I've seen, there's a lot of trouble there, so they could come well into it.
But they're actually moving up the table. They're 25 points, with Leeds at 22. But there is a lot of there's a lot of teams between Forest and the drop at the moment. But I know what you mean. They're erratic. Yeah, very, very erratic. The Forest had a good run. But Leeds, they're all erratic down at the bottom of the table. But I do think that Leeds have enough go about them, and this manager does a half-decent job. I think they'll stay up. Liam, Spurs beat Chelsea 2-0, and Chelsea are one of the stories of the season. They're in the bottom half of the table now. They're on the same number of points, 31, as Aston Villa, and they spent 600 million in 2 transfer windows, and things are going from bad to worse. And Spurs beating them 2-0 put Spurs actually in the top 4 for the moment. Graham Potter came to Chelsea with a big reputation, which he made at Brighton. He's a very much respected figure because he doesn't do the throwing himself around the touchline and shouting at people. But he's in mortal danger now, I would have thought.
Well, they say they're going to stick with him, Eamon.
Yes,
give him the time. Well, I don't think the Chelsea fans feel that way. I think there's a quite a big push they'd like to see him replaced. A lot of them would anyway. He's not very consistent in the selection, Eamon. I don't know whether he has too many players. Well, he definitely has too many players.
I think he's got 28 first-team players.
Yeah, but he's chopping and changing.
Much, yeah,
but he's chopping and changing. And you've got to give the players, the confidence that you have in them. But if you keep chopping and changing them, you don't get that. And I saw against Spurs that he actually had Aubameyang back and brought him on, off the bench and put him on as sub. And I thought he was like sidelined by the manager like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I don't really get what's going on there, Eamon. I feel a bit sorry for him because I think he's a really up and coming good young manager.
Yes.
But it looks like that he doesn't really know what he's doing at the moment because there's no consistency in this team selection.
John, if there's players coming in at the rate they're coming in for the money they're coming in at, it would be pretty hard to coach and create a team, wouldn't it?
Too many players, Eamon. Yeah. I mean, you can't look at them all. It's very hard to get a consistent team.
Yeah.
When there's so many there, I would doubt very much, Eamon, if he's brought these players in for a start.
Not at all. No.
Right, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not picking the team.
Right.
To be honest, I really wouldn't, because the way he's going about it, he's been taken there because he's been a very, very good manager.
Yeah.
At Brighton, wasn't it?
Yes.
Really good, and he looks like a sensible guy when you hear him talking, or sounds like a sensible guy when you hear him talking on the telly and that. I would doubt very much if he's in charge of this whole trouble.
Yeah.
And I think any manager, Eamon, wouldn't have that many players in.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's a bit of a joke to say he's got too many players. How can he play the same team every week, Eamon? You know, how can you make changes? He's had a lot of money gone into all these players.
Yeah.
I think there's an influence behind that. And I think if he had his say, he wouldn't have bought all the players that he's had. Because how can you have you need 2 dressing rooms for the amount of players that he has. And how do you get a team spirit from that, Eamon, and all the various things that you need?
Yeah.
I think he's in a very, very difficult position not of his own making.
Yeah. Billionaire
owner. Say, before I go, Spurs were very good.
Right.
Spurs were really good. I was really impressed with Spurs at the weekend.
Right.
They played really, really well. Harry Kane, brilliant again. Scored a goal, but was brilliant in his general play.
Yeah. Okay, John and Liam, we're very grateful to both of you for talking to us